I'm a huge fan of Sean Baker's films. I mean, I love Tangerine and Florida Project particularly. And without wishing to repeat some of the stuff that you covered there in the interview, this is the story of somebody who's been working in the adult film industry in LA, comes back to Texas City, bangs on the door of his ex, and the mother, worms his way back into the house, sets himself up in business selling marijuana, and then sets his sight on a 17-year-old who's working in the local donut hole. She says she's 3 weeks away from being 18. And he then sees her as his ticket back into the adult film industry. And you asked the question about, is that grooming? And Sean Baker said, well, look, I don't judge. And the thing is that in terms of the film allows you to make up your own mind. I think the interesting thing about Red Rocket is that when Sean Baker was talking in that interview about having met some of those people, and that in person they're kind of charming. And
the suitcase pimp.
The suitcase pimp, which isn't a phrase that I had heard before, but is very specifically what this character played by Simon Rex is. And then, in person, they have this kind of charm. And then when you're away from them, you go, oh, my heavens, that's absolutely terrible. And I think the clever thing about the film is that it does something fairly similar. When Sean Baker talks about being non-judgmental, I think he doesn't mean that the films don't have an opinion about those things, but what it is that they allow the audience to arrive at that opinion. So, for example, at the beginning of the film, you find the company of this motor-mouthed, incessantly selfish guy, kind of quite funny because he is sort of quite charming. But as the drama goes on, it becomes apparent that he poisons absolutely every situation, whether it's with his wife, it'll be like we're still married, it'll be like we're married, we are still married. Whether it's the person that he picks on in the donut hole and he appears to be, he's being seduced. But no, what he's seeing is a business opportunity. And then later on in the film, just in case you hadn't got this point, things get even worse. And his character never takes responsibility for anything, never thinks about anything other than himself. And what the film does is it kind of tricks you into finding his company funny and charming at the beginning, because the film has a kind of freewheeling, loose-limbed comedic style. I mean, it is broadly a comedy. And then this other stuff creeps up. And I found what was interesting and also confusing is that when it gets, in my opinion, I think the story does get really nasty and really dark and really creepy, and not just in relation to that character in the donut hole. The screening I was in, some people were still laughing, and I kind of stopped laughing at, earlier than that. And then there is one thing that happens that's gasp-inducing that actually raised some laughs. And so what the film does is it wrong-foots you in the same way that the character does. Now, I confess that I don't like the film anything much as much as I like Florida Project or I like Tangerine, because I found those characters easier to sympathise with. And I did find that during the course of Red Rocket, I found the central character became completely poisonous and completely toxic.